I was cornered by gangsters at the bottom of the cliff. They were getting closer. I had no choice but to climb the cliff bare. One of them started climbing after me. He was faster than me. Soon, he grabbed my foot. I kicked him hard. He let go in pain and almost fell. But he quickly caught up again. When he tried to grab my camera from my backpack, the camera slipped and hit the rock face. He flinched in shock and almost fell again. I grabbed the camera back and kept climbing. But he came after me again, like a demon. I panicked and kicked with all my strength. He fell from beneath my feet. He hit the ground and couldn't move. The other 3 men ground their teeth in anger. They first dragged their injured companion back to camp, then came back with more gear. By then, I had climbed halfway up. They looked at the steep cliff and finally gave up, because it was high and cold above, and climbing further up would be courting death. They discussed for a while. Then, they decided to take the side trail to the top. They planned to wait for me like hunters lying in ambush. Just as I reached halfway up the mountain, suddenly, a snake slid out of a crack in the rock. I froze where I was, too scared to move. I shut my eyes and prayed it would let me go. Luckily, it just glanced at me and disappeared. I took a deep breath and climbed again. Horrors of climbing had already torn my hands open. I took out my water bottle and drank heavily to replenish my strength, but I didn't hold it steady, and the bottle fell. Their laughter echoed below. I adjusted my breath and kept going. My body was at its limit, but I couldn't stop. I had to reach the top before they did. The higher I climbed, the smoother the rock became. There was nothing to grip. I was hanging in midair. Just when I was about to lose all hope, I saw a rope hanging nearby. I reached out for it, but my arm was too short to reach it. I quickly bit through the hiking bag and pulled out a thin steel wire from inside. I straightened it and bent one end into a hook. I shifted my feet and pressed myself against the nearly vertical rock face. Bit by bit, I tried to hook the rope. 2 meters away felt like forever. Finally, I managed to hook it. I didn't dare pull too fast. After more than 2 minutes, I finally grabbed the end of the rope, but that was only the first step in whether I'd make it out alive. I tied myself to the fixed line and began swinging my body side to side. I used the inertia to swing myself onto the protruding rock on the cliff face. I made it, but the danger wasn't over. That's when I spotted an old tent hanging from the cliff. I suddenly came up with an idea. I started moving toward it slowly. Using both my hands and feet, I finally landed on a large jutting rock. At that moment, the 3 men had already reached the summit. I quickly hid behind the rock. They timed it and soon realized I was right below them. I knew I was exposed. They shouted that if I handed over the evidence, they would let me live. Then they threw down a rope. I saw through their trick. I tied a piece of paper to the rope. They thought I had given in and pulled the rope up. But what they got was a note with a taunting message. I clipped the buckle into a crack above my head. Used all my strength, I lifted the old tent and fastened it to the top. As night fell, the makeshift tent hanging in midair was finally set up. I thought I could finally rest, but they didn't stop. They filled their packs with heavy stones, tied them to ropes, then they hurled it toward my tent.